Assalamualaikum and good morning. We are from group 9. So in this video we are going to explain on our Manova project titled Elastic Properties of Rubber Bands. As you can see here, we have a total of 6 members in our group, and our group leader is Nur Syafiqah binti Debayan. Here are the objectives of our project. First of all, we are going to identify the relationships between the extension length of rubber bands and each manipulated variables. We are also going to identify the weight which causes the rubber band to break. Then, using the experimental data, we are going to calculate the strain energy versus the extension graph using numerical methods. We are also going to find out the elastic and plastic region of rubber bands. Then we're going to record and analyze experimental data based on Manova. Lastly, utilize MATLAB and Excel as a software for calculation, analysis and presentation of data.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Syafiqah binti Debayan. I'm going to give brief introduction about our Manova project. For this Manova project, we have chosen to experiment the stiffness and rigidity of rubber bands. Hence, it is closely related to Young modulus. What is Young modulus? Young modulus is the ability of material or substance to undergo a reversible increase in length. For example, the spring. It is the property that can be measured. Young modulus is also known as the elastic modulus. Elastic property of rubber band is that it can return to the original shape and size after being pulled or twisted. However, what if when the rubber bands are being preheated at different temperature, different conditions, does the elasticity remain or will it be changed? The strain energy is the energy stored when load is applied. It can be calculated by the integration of integration versus weight drop. The behavior of bands falls into 3 categories, which are their elastic, plastic, and also snap or break. Elastic property is when when the rubber band stretch when the load is applied and unstretch after the load is removed. For plastic, the band will stretch when load is applied, but it will remain stretched after the load is removed. It means that it will return to the original shape and size. And lastly, when it snap or break, it is when when the rubber band break into pieces, into 2 or more pieces when the load is applied. The experiment proves that the rubber is not perfectly elastic material, contrary to popular belief, and it undergoes information in terms of elongation at break and snapping.
And today I'm Niza bin Jalaluddin. My matrix number is 197337. I'm here to today discuss about experiment description for this Manova project. So before I proceed to the procedure method, I want to just talk about experimental variable for this Manova project. So we have 3 types of variable here, which is control variables, manipulative variables, and responding variable. So for the control variable, we control the same type of the rubber bands by using the same type of rubber bands. Next, we also control the time for the pretreatment for the rubber bands. So for the manipulative variable, we proceed with the 3 types of pre-treatment temperatures, which is boiling temperature, room temperature, and freezing temperature of water. Next, we also manipulate a number of rubber bands to the cap. Moving on to next, we use the max load of different mass loads, which is 250 grams, 500 grams, 750 grams. The responding variable for our experiment is actually to find the extension length of rubber bands and also the maximum mass of load applied until the rubber band snaps. So before that, next is with our procedure. We use a rubber band, a scissors, a ruler to measure, and wet cloth to wipe off any remainings of on figure 2 and figure 3 by attaching the rubber band to the bottle cap and also to the rod or hook. Then after that, we will attach the water bottle to the water cap until it extends, and we use the ruler to find the extension. Then we will jot down in our Excel file. And the experiment was repeated by using 2 rubber bands and 3 rubber bands with the same number of mass, which is 250, 500, and 700 with 4 times repetition each.
This is Hamza. I will start with the first part of the Manova analysis. So we use the SPSS software to do our Manova test, and the significance that we chose is 0.01. So the first test we did is the boxes test of equality of the covariance and variance matrices, which is a null hypothesis that tests whether the variance and covariance matrices are equal to each other. So the significance result is 0.045, which is above our 0.01. Hence, the null hypothesis is not significant, which means that the variance and covariance matrices are equal to each other, which means that our Manova assumption is valid. So going to the next part test, which is the multivariate test. So as you can see here, we have our subjects or factors. Here is the different types of tests that we did, and here's the significance value for each test. If you look carefully, the significance value for all of these tests is below our alpha, which means that there is a relationship between the subjects and the dependent variables. Now, the second Manova test is the subject test between subject effect test, which shows that each factor or subject and the relationship and test the relationship between each dependent variable alone. So for the extension dependent variables, there is a relationship as their significance is below the adjusted alpha level, which is 0.005, which applies only to this particular table. For the snap variable, however, there is a relationship for the first three subjects, but for the other subjects, there is not a relationship as their significance value is above this alpha level. Now, for these snap subjects which do not have a relationship with each other, it's actually wrong in the physics perspective. A possible reason for this is there's not enough data to show that there is a relationship between these subjects, or simply put that some of the subjects are inversely proportional to each other. For example, over here, which is the summary of the relationship that we got from our Manova test, it shows that the temperature is directly proportional to the extension and snap. Same thing with the mass of loading, but for the number of bands, it is inversely proportional to the dependent variables. Hence, it might be a reason why it does not detect that there is a value or a test. This table agrees with the physics terms.
Hello Doctor, I'm Subhashini Yoga. I would like to explain about the descriptive statistic part and strain energy. Data of dependent variable has been added to SP3 software and then the results exported to Excel. As you can see, the highest mean statistics achieved for extension is 55.7 cm with 1 rubber band, 0.75 kg mass at 290 Kelvin. As for the snap, is 1. Apart from that, we can observe a different pattern where the mass and the temperature kept constant but with different number of bands. The mean of extension decreases. As for the standard deviation, the highest standard deviation occurs at the treatment of extension with 2 rubber bands with 0.25 kg mass load at 290 Kelvin, which indicates that the data is more dispersed. So before moving on to the strain energy, I would like to talk about the rubber band's unusual polymer structure, whereby its gas shortens as the long chains of monomers gets hotter, but it gets stretched out when it's frozen, resulting in longer extension. So table 3 below shows the summary of relationship between the factors and dependent variables. For example, mass of loading is directly proportional to the extension, indicating when the mass of load increases, the extension also increases. So the next part is the strain energy, where we first import the data from the Excel, then we calculated it using the MATLAB software. Integrating force against extension graph will yield strain energy. Therefore, we find out the force by multiplying mass with gravitation force, which is 9.81, and then the area was calculated by using the built-in function of trapezoidal rule. As you can see, the strain energy for the frozen bands are the highest. Thus, none of the rubber bands snapped during the experiment. It can be concluded that the strain energy increases with an increase of the number of bands, but decrease in temperature. That's all for the analysis part. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ikmal Haziq, matric number 199078. So, in conclusion, regardless of any factor combinations, there's a significant differences in dependent variables, which is P is equal to 0.01 for all test types. Next, increase in rubber bands will decrease the extension of rubber bands, since the force applied will be distributed evenly among the rubber bands. And lastly, strain energy is highest for the frozen bands, causing them to be stronger and harder to snap.